Oh, yeah. Listen, it's the Man Tucson radio program. I want to thank you for downloading or listening to the program. It's typically a live broadcast. Today is going to be a pre-recorded podcast, so please refrain from using the chat feature that's on the mantucson.org website. In the future, when this is a live broadcast, you could go to mantucson.org/radio, and there is a chat window there that we do usually have a little chat, a back and forth with whoever's listening at the time. For one of my 6 listeners that may be near a computer and want to use the chat today, please do not do that. This is a pre-recorded episode or podcast of the Man Tucson radio program. This week, I'm just, I don't know how long the program is going to be. Like I said, it's pre-recorded. I'm still having an issue getting my my sound system to allow me to broadcast live, and we're looking into getting the equipment necessary to allow us to make sure that we can get back to live broadcasting. But I wanted to check in, leave you a little message, let you know what's going on. Man Tucson is still serving at the park, and every Sunday at Santa Rita Park, we're out there doing some outreach. We're taking some food and serving. Homeless is just, it's not really the right word. There's an element of our neighbors that come out that do not have established homes. They don't live indoors. They live outside. They live in the park. And many of them choose to live that way. I've been posting some stuff on my Facebook page about how to make a homeless person smile, or why we serve, and or how to show them respect. There's this one video of a homeless man who's sharing his experience of somebody calling him a bum, and how much that hurts, how much that denigrates him. And I just want to let you know, I have a real heart for the homeless. I have a real heart for underdeveloped or below poverty level income families. And that's why we go out to the park. That's the outreach that you could support Man Tucson with your prayers or tax-deductible charitable contributions. You can make those contributions through the website at mantucson.org. Again, that's enough pimping out the website. I've just got a few topics I'm going to roll through today. We're going to go fairly quick. Like I said, it's a podcast. It's not live. So I don't know how long this is going to go. Last week, I started a new podcast on the Man Tucson channel on Spreaker.com, which is where I post these episodes. I started a new channel called the Daley Honor Roll, and the first episode was about my dad, my biological father. The second episode, however, was about my stepfather. His name was Ron Conroe. And I didn't do any research about Ron prior to recording the episode. And as a result of doing the episode, it brought up some memories. It brought up some emotions. It brought up some feelings about my stepdad and what a good man he was to me, even though the relationship between him and my mother failed. For whatever reason it failed. It doesn't matter. That did not or should not have affected the relationship I had with him, and it did. Obviously, people pick sides, and I was going to pick my biological mother's side. All 4 of my brothers, who are at least 4 years older than me and beyond, they had a better understanding. I was, I think I was 18 years old or 19 years old. So I was, I was falling back on, well, they think he's a jerk, so I've got to think he's a jerk, and I'm not going to talk to him anymore. Anyway, I posted that podcast in the Daley Honor Roll. It's entitled Ron Conroe Stepfather. I didn't think he was a jerk, to be honest with you. I went to his house and met with him and his then girlfriend when they were living in Arleta, Ellen, and I let him know it was no hard feelings type of conversation. I remember that day. I don't remember the specific conversation. I do remember feeling a little weird about going there and not feeling weird when I left. But I did not speak with him after that. I had no more contact with him, and that was probably 1985 or 1986. So as a result of posting the podcast, as a result of posting the episode, I then did some research, and I was able to find a phone number and address for a Ronald Conroe in Northern California, in a town where his mom had actually, my grandmother, Ron's mom, actually lived in this town. So I kind of knew where to start digging, and he was there. And he has a beautiful home, and he's lived there over 20 years now. And he's had a great life. He actually got married to Ellen, who's the woman he was with after my mother, and they spent 25 years together. And as he was recounting the story, he was recounting that she was his soulmate, the love of his life, which was a little awkward for me, being my mother's son. However, I was tremendously overjoyed to hear that he had actually found a love, a soulmate. They worked in the same place together. They drove to work together. They took their breaks together. They drove home, and he was able to be with her for 25 years before she passed away. And I don't know. It's such a mixture, an overwhelming of emotion for me. I have to look back and know that I missed out on being able to share even a small portion of that joy with him while he was able to experience it. I missed out on getting to know a wonderful person as a result of picking sides. And I really, I'm 48 years old now. I don't think I ever want to pick sides again. I'm tired of missing out on stuff. I don't want to pick sides. Anyway, I was reconnected to my stepdad after 28 years, at least a minimum of 28 years of separation. So I now have an added level of insight to look back and find out factually who I was as a little boy, not just who I think I remember being, not who my brother remembers me being, because my brother Bill Daley, he's going to have a different opinion. He's gonna have his older brother, 4 year older than me, brother lens on that. You can't trust that because I was a nuisance to him. So I have this new lens. I have my stepdad that now I have a reestablished relationship with. And I'm very excited about that. It's like he was a dad to me as much as he could be, as much as he was allowed to be, considering the situation. So I have a dad back. I have an actual father figure who loved me as a child. In fact, it was at the end of the conversation, after speaking with him, we didn't talk too terribly long. We talked long enough to get reconnected. We talked about he, as a result of this conversation with my stepfather, my testimony and how I came to Christ, it changes a little bit. It was I remember going to this church, the Church of the Nazarene in Panorama City. I remember going there. I can see it when I close my eyes. I can see the sanctuary. I can remember I was sitting in the back. I remember an altar call, and I remember an emotional response. I was in tears, but I did go to the front, and I made a confession of my faith to Jesus Christ at a very young age. Now, I thought I was alone, but Ron, come to find out, was there with me that day, and in fact also made a confession of faith that day. So on the same day that I came to confess Christ as my Lord and Savior, so did my stepdad. Also, he cleared up a little bit of the story. It was, I seem to remember hearing the story that my family was told that Ron was no longer welcome to come to that church unless he renounced his membership in the Masonic Lodge. He clarified, he changed that up for me as well. He said they didn't tell us that we couldn't come. They told us that we couldn't be members. So he wanted to be a member of this church. And this church drew the line in the sand and said, no, you cannot be a member of this church if you belong to the Masons Lodge. At that point, that's when I believe our family stopped going. Ron didn't see a point in going. It pushed a legalistic button I guess, and we haven't had an in-depth conversation about that. So I can understand. I could understand before why, but I feel a little bit better if they just told him that he was not allowed to be a member, but he could still come. That makes me feel a little bit better about that church and what they were teaching and how they were loving their community. Anyway, I'm also reconnected to my stepsister, Rhonda, which is very exciting. She's only 3 years older than me. I thought she was a little bit older than that. I thought at least 4 years. I thought she was the same age as my brother. Turns out she's only 3 years older than me. And we, as children, were close as stepsister and stepbrother can be. We were close. We and she did see me as a little brother, so she did take care of me, and she did have fond memories of me. We spoke just this morning. It was an awesome conversation, and we've got, from what she says, we've got 35 years to catch up on. So we barely scratched the surface on that. We've already talked about how we're going to continue to talk to each other on the phone and connect that way. She sent me some old pictures from our childhood, pictures of my brother Bill, a picture of my mom and stepdad together, a picture of me that I had given her. I think it probably was it looks like 10th grade to me, or maybe even possibly 11th grade, because it looked like my head started to get a little, I was trying to grow my hair out, and my head was getting a little elongated. I didn't have that round baby face that I had all the way up through 9th grade. Yeah, I don't know. We shared some memories. We shared some laughs. We talked about being married, divorced, and remarried. That's something we both experienced in our life. We essentially made a commitment to stay connected, and I'm very happy for that. So as a result of doing one podcast about my stepdad, I've now been reconnected to my family. I've been reconnected to a part of my family that I had lost. Actually, I had lost, that's not even correct, a part of my family that I had walked away from, that I had intentionally lost contact with. If you can hear my voice, and you have family that you've lost contact with for whatever reason, I would encourage you to do whatever needs to happen to get reconnected to your family. It might be so simple as they're wondering where you're at. Rhonda even shared she tried to look up, she tried to find me or find my family, find me or my brother Bill, in the early 2000s, but she was looking in California and neither one of us were there. So don't let that much time. Somebody's looking. If you have family that you've lost contact with, they want to have contact with you, and it's worth the effort to figure out how to maintain that contact, how to maintain that relationship. Don't lose your connections. Don't lose any resource that you could possibly maintain to find out who you were. You got to know who you were to know who you are, and it's just not worth it. It's please just suck it up and get reconnected to your family. Anyway, also I want to talk a little bit about I did go to the park this last weekend. This last weekend was the last weekend of the month, so that's typically a big weekend at the park. There was over 120 people. We had brought out 134 muffins, just about 100 pairs of socks. We brought out 130-something noodle cups, a cup of noodles, the ramen you use, hot water. We did muffins, coffee, soup, bananas, fruit juice, hot water, jalapenos, salt, sugar, creamer, spoons, forks. It was overwhelming because typically Man Tucson only provides muffins, bananas, water, and I have sufficient volunteers that come out to man the tables so that I do not have to man the tables, so I can go out and I can make eye contact and say good morning and shake hands and pray with people and hug people and kind of keep an eye on what's going on around the park, around what's going on at that time. Well, this past weekend we didn't have enough volunteers because I had brought out, literally 3 6-foot tables for the serving line for the soups and the muffins and the bananas and the water. I brought out the 5-foot table for the coffee service. And there was just not enough volunteers, so I had to work the line. And so what I wanted to talk about is what I learned. This is a tough thing to talk about what I learned, especially in relation to this, because I have to tell you, I did not have a joyful heart at the park this past weekend. I'd spilled some juice on my shirt, and any of you that are listening, if you know me, I don't like to be sticky. I don't like to be, I'm a weird guy. If I've got something sticky on my hand, I got to wash it off. If I've spilled something on my shirt, I'm a little, as I discussed with my sister this morning, maybe I'm a little OCD. I'm a little obsessive compulsive about getting that off of me. However, I was at the park. I didn't have to change a shirt, so I had to work while my shirt was wet. So I'm serving with my head down. I can't keep an eye on what's going on around the park. I have I can't feed my idol of control, with that, that false sense of control I might have if I'm not serving in the line and I can actually walk around and think I've got some kind of sense of control, which is just, it's ludicrous. I have no control of what happens at the park, and I'm not supposed to. What I'm supposed to do is just go there and serve with a joyful heart, regardless of the capacity or manner in which I need to serve to achieve the goal that God has set before me. And therein lies the rub, is because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, which is the hugging and the handshaking and the praying and and the socializing, for lack of a better word. Actually, that's exactly the right word. I had to be at the end of the line pouring juice into cups and putting it on tables, and there's 120 people, and they were coming as fast as I could put it up. So, no joy in my heart, and I left that park just, it was just chewing on me like a dog works a bone. It was just, I was thinking, I wanted to pick a fight. I was not happy. I don't like not being happy when I leave the park. On top of everything else, there was a real spirit of discontentedness, a spirit of contention at that park. People in each other's faces, people just being rude to each other. I couldn't go and speak to that. It was a rough weekend, but it was a good weekend because I was able to see where I was making it about me. Now, when I make it about me, I have no joy. I wasn't going out there to really serve. I was going out there. Sure, I was going out there to serve. I was going out to provide muffins and go out there to provide, what we provide every weekend. But I was also going out there for me. I wanted to shake hands. I wanted to pray. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. Whatever. As soon as you make it about yourself, for me, and I can only speak for me, as soon as I make it about me, there's no joy. That's just not who God has changed me to be. That's not the man I am. It's not the man I want to be. I don't want to be self-serving. And as soon as I start to dig up that old man, the old man that's dead and buried, as soon as I break out that, that old Wayne suit and I try to put it on, it stinks. It's uncomfortable. It's not attractive. I don't enjoy it. And as soon as I slip into that old dead man suit, it's not an experience I want to have. I've made my confession, and I confess that to you now. There was no joy, and I will continue to work on that. I can't promise that it's fixed, but I'm going to continue to go to the park. Anybody within earshot of this podcast is welcome to join me on any Sunday morning. We're typically out there at 8 a.m., and we're done about 9:15. Now, the only times, moving forward, the only time that we are not going to be at the park is on days where I'm teaching at Crossroads, and I will be teaching at Crossroads this weekend, August 4th, at Crossroads Church in Tucson, Arizona. I'll be teaching on 1 Corinthians 12 through 26. I'll be teaching on the letter that Paul wrote to the Corinthian church, or the church at Corinth, about one body, how we are one body. Come on down. Services start at 10 o'clock. Opens with worship. We have a little bit of fellowship and then the message. I'd love to see you. Give me a call if you need an address. Shoot me an email. Do whatever you have to do to shake me hard and get my attention. We're also, this week on Thursday, we're kicking off a series, a Thursday morning series. Some of the, I'm really encouraged by the college men who attend Crossroads Church. These are young men, we'll say between 19 and 22. I don't have their exact ages, but there was a few of them, a handful of them had rallied together and requested help because they want to know what God wants them to be before they pursue wives, which is so contrary to what society tells us. Society tells us that in some circles, or for some men, that by getting married, you've become a man. These men are actually looking to see what God says you need to be as a man before you step into the role as a husband and father. And I'm deeply, deeply honored and encouraged to be working with these men. So some of the older men of the church have stepped up because the Bible tells us in Titus that the older men are to come alongside the younger men and to give them solid instruction and wisdom and walk with them. It's great when you've got a guy that you can walk alongside with that's going to help you avoid some landmines. We're going to be working through the book by Vodi Bakum. It's called What He Must Be If He Wants to Marry My Daughter, and it's about 11 weeks. It's actually an 11-week commitment. These men have made a commitment. If they can't commit to 11 weeks, at 5:30 on a Thursday morning, circling up and having some fun with men, they should not commit to the rest of their lives with a woman. They're not ready. If they can't make a small commitment, they can't be trusted with a big commitment. Anyway, that's my position on that. The last thing I wanted to talk about was Guy Talk Radio. That's a show that I have to tell you, it's an indulgence for me. I like to listen to it. It's on the LA Talk Radio website, latalkradio.com. They have a bunch of different talk radio sites. Sandy Stotzer, who is also on the Guy Talk Radio show, along with Joey Olsen and Billy Batts. Joey Olsen is the host. It's his show. And then Billy and Sandy are there as his cohorts, whatever. And Sandy gave a really good explanation. This man, he's not from America. He came to America. He wanted to have a talk radio show. He loves talk radio. He tried to get on talk radio in the town that he was in. I believe it was L.A., and he couldn't not find anybody that would let him have a talk radio show. So he started up latalkradio.com, and now he has an internet radio station. To be honest with you, it's the inspiration that caused me to do podcasting on Spreaker, because I can do a live broadcast. And he has an internet radio station that has two channels, Channel 1, Channel 2, and Guy Talk Radio is on Channel 1 on Mondays at 4 o'clock. And I like to listen to this show. I enjoy... I know Sandy. I've known Sandy for going on 20 years. Real close. We're about 17, 18 years now. Great man. Billy, I've met Billy once, Billy Batts, and that is Sandy's partner also on A Comic's Life, which is another talk radio show that is on LA Talk Radio on Mondays and Fridays. So I call into that show sometimes. But Joey Olsen has this Guy Talk Radio. Joey Olsen, he's a very charismatic young man. I'll call him young man. He's married. He has kids. But I'm 48, right? I'm super old, so I can call him young man. I love these guys. I love the conversations. Sometimes it's borderline unlistenable. Sometimes I have to shake my head and plug my ears and pray through whatever it is they're talking. Sometimes he has porn stars on the show. I can't call in then, and the reason I can't call in then is the first thing I don't want to sound like I'm judging when I call up to talk or ask questions. They're gonna say, "Well, what do you do?" I'm a pastor. I'm a pastor in training. I'm a minister. I have a nonprofit organization that serves the community. Whatever it is sometimes that will trigger people to feel judged before I even open my mouth. And I don't want to do that. That's Joey also. I respect Joey for what he does. He has a show that it's Guy Talk Radio. It's guys talking to guys about guy issues. And sometimes that means he brings a porn star on, but whether it be a guy or a girl. Sometimes they're having, this last week they had Jen Barr on. She's a female comedian, sexy female comedian. They had a picture of her. She had a tattoo on her arm, and and the conversation, it was like a Cadillac on an icy highway. It was all over the place. Sometimes it was funny. Other times it was beyond inappropriate, in my opinion. But that's not for me to. I don't call up to correct that. I call up to engage. I can't help my desire for wanting to interject a little gender-specific truth into this show. And if I have an opportunity to do that, I may have to wade through that which is not palatable. And that's kind of harsh. It's all palatable. There's some crude humor. Anyway. Where was I? Anyway, so it's an edgy show. And I equate it to this. It's like trying to swim in fast-moving water. You jump in, stay close to shore, get done what you got to get done, and try and get out before you get swept away. That's my experience with calling into Joey's show. Now, there was a few remarks that this young lady was making. She was talking about dating. She was talking specifically about keeping romance alive. And that triggered me to call in and engage that. Now, as I called in, and I was trying to just talk about love and respect, how husbands are called to love and women are called to respect, and told him it was up to the man to pursue and keep the romance alive. Joey had asked me a question. He said, "Well, what if the man can't keep the romance? What if he's not romantic, or what if he can't keep the romance alive, or something to that flavor?" Now, my response was inappropriate and judgmental, and it was in no way meant to build up. I responded by saying the guy was a jerk. Actually, that's not the word I used. When I call into that show, I also slip into a dialect that fits the audience that I'm speaking to. So I'm going to go ahead and link that show in the blog that I post about this podcast. A link to LA Talk Radio. You can listen to it. Be warned. There's some extreme language. There's some extreme topics. Don't go in there thinking Guy Talk Radio is light and fluffy. It's not. It's edgy, and it's not necessarily hardcore, but it's got a hard driving beat. And if you can't dance that fast, you shouldn't listen. If you can't listen to it without judging, you shouldn't listen. I'm telling you now, in love, as your friend, Romans 14:19. So then let us pursue what makes for peace and for mutual building up. If you cannot listen to this through that filter, you shouldn't listen. Anyway, I'm glad that I had called in. I'm glad that I had stepped on my own tongue and I was inappropriate. I think it engaged a deeper conversation between Joey and I. I don't know Joey really beyond just calling into a show, or I didn't until yesterday. As a result of calling into a show, I had recommended a book, the book we're doing on Thursday morning, What He Must Be, If He Wants to Marry My Daughter, to their guest, and she seemed receptive, and that's all I can do. I may have given her something that will read, that she'll read, that will trigger her, that'll help her find a good man, a God-fearing a man who will love her and provide for her and take care of her in a manner in which she deserves and desires. And that's really the purpose of what I did. But Billy had sent me a note, a personal note, a private note, which I read, and he was very transparent. He was open about who he is and his views on what's wrong with society today, gender roles between men and women. And I very much honor Joey for his open dialogue, or his invitation to open dialogue. I responded to him. We've exchanged phone numbers, and we're talking about, getting together the next time I'm in LA for us to sit down and actually talk to each other. So as a process of diving into an area where the footing is unsure, but I know that I'm called to love everybody equally. It doesn't matter if they're talking about drinking and porn, or if they're talking about things of the church. They're no different. The love needs to be the same. And now I have an invitation. I have an opportunity for a relationship that will be equally important in me understanding him and him understanding me. And I don't know what God has planned for that, but I certainly I'm excited about it. And that's really all I've got for today. Those were three things. Those were the three things that I was kicking around. I'll keep you updated. You can listen to the Daley Honor Roll. I'm sure Joey Olsen on some point is going to make his way. He's on the list. I'm not sure when I'll post a podcast about it, but he is definitely on the list, just like Sandy Stotzer and Billy Batts are. Anyway, that's enough about that. If you need to or want to find out more about the Daley Honor Roll, you can find that on Spreaker.com, or you can wait until I post an episode. It will appear on the mantucson.org/radio page. The most current episode does appear in the right-hand column at the bottom, just as this episode of the Man Tucson radio program will appear in the right-hand column at the top, next to the chat window. Again, this is a podcast, so please don't go and ask questions in chat. I will eventually see them and get back to them. You just won't get an immediate response. I'd like to thank you for listening to this podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me at wayne.daley@mantucson.com. That's WAYNE.DALEY @mantucson.com. I'd like to thank you for listening. Send me your feedback, suggestions, anything else. Remember, God loves you. God bless you.